And we're back once again, ladies and gentlemen, only on Last Call. Last Call with the alcohol, only on the Last Call YouTube channel. That's right. And once again, we are joined by the man. Unfortunately, I have bad news. He is not getting hired by the FBI. Cash Patel said, no, Kevin, I can't have you sloppy around FBI agents. But the good news is he's back on the show and he's found his inner big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. That's right. I give you the man with the largest arms naturally in the world. I give you Kevin. So, Kevin, let's start off here. AEW Grand Slam. As I'm pulling it up here with the photo, I can already tell that there's just for you like rage. So let's get it off. They got a ring. Well, it's not a top quality ring. It was a ring they found around. There were no steel steps. It was just a footstool. I know you and I argue. I'm anti AEW. You're still like, well, give him a chance. But after this, how much do you look and go, how the F can you guys not get a real ring? You had 3 months, 6 months to plan this. Why couldn't you get a regular freaking ring there?
Well, that's the thing, right? So what they had 6 months, but before you announced the show, there had to be weeks, if not months, of negotiations to land the show. So someone had to have the idea. So you got to figure they probably had 9 months from conception of the idea to having to execute the event. The one of the things that I got annoyed with, and that was mostly IWC discourse, was the size of the ring does not matter. It's not a safety thing. A 16 is a more common ring because that's generally what most promoters can afford. The WWE for a very long time was the only company who worked in the 20 by 20, and I was lucky enough that the promoter I worked with, because he had worked on a national stage and been on WWF TV, ECW, and WCW. He liked working. He liked doing his shows. Like our training ring was a 20, and the travel ring was an 18. And he focused on that because for production wise, it's an easier ring slash when you're working with bigger people, bigger guys need room to move. It was almost the point that when we worked in a 16, it felt small, but it's super easy to adjust. It just is what it is. If you got like it's the difference of if you've got two 6'4" guys, instead of suplexing rope to rope, you're suplexing ring post to ring post, from the middle, so that you have more space. The is really what it is. And when you're running the ropes, it's the difference of if from a 16 to an 18, it's the difference of two extra steps. From an 18, from a 16 to a 20, it's 4 steps. I always talk about how when you watched guys come from WCW to WWF, they needed like a couple of weeks to adjust because that is a really long, you might not realize, like 3 to 4 extra steps is a long time, when you look at how you perform. And then the ring ropes were different. So like, Jericho's first couple of weeks, when he struggled to hit the line salt the way that we were used to seeing it in WCW, he had to get his movement timing down, and then the spring was different because WWE uses ropes with tape, WCW uses elevator cable. But that's where the difference in performance is. So that's why I was very adamant about the size part is not what the factor is here. When you look at this ring, you can tell this is an old beat up ring. This is a ring that gets used a lot. The ring posts are bending in. We've seen feedback on Twitter from some of the wrestlers about some holes in the padding, things like that. So when I look at where I get mad with AEW, again, it's not on the talent side, it's on the leadership side, it's on the production side. If you know, WWE is probably the only company right now that has the infrastructure and the money to travel anywhere in the globe with their stuff. If WWE can't, they pay someone to build something to their specifications. AEW is allegedly in position with having the most profit ever, depending on who you get your news from, that they should have been able to afford to have had a ring built for them, or at the very least paid a local indie guy that they could trust to store a brand new ring for them, or they have the ring just sitting there waiting. We've seen this happen with them a couple times, right? Their first few shows, they didn't have a ring to travel, so they had to borrow a ring from someone with a with an unsavory past. I don't know how hard you want me to go today.
You can
You
go as
know,
hard as you want because the bigger people thing I don't think the bigger problem I have that people don't get is like this is your debut. This is like a job interview. You're trying to show the people of Australia, hey, we're a top flight company. We are, we want your business. And so we look at AEW, like how much does it bother you as a promoter? Like, okay, this is your one shot, and you can't even do this right. You're
yep,
cheaping out. You're getting crap, and people look and go, oh wow,
yep,
you're
yep.
half-assing it.
Yeah, it was like one of their first pay-per-views. They had to get the ring from a promoter who was also a freaking sex offender, a kid toucher. Then when they went to England, they didn't have the ring there. They had to scramble and beg, borrow for it. When they went back, they just assumed that that ring was going to be available, and it wasn't. And they had to beg, borrow for another ring. So it's just Bush League. It's Bush League when you look at how they prepare. The again, and it's as simple as I know I'm going here. First of all, anytime I go somewhere the first time, the mission is to put your best foot forward. You only get one chance at making a first impression. The and production, your presentation is everything. People are very forgiving of a bad match because usually there's a lot of stuff going on and you kind of forget about it. Unless your talent doesn't look like, like wrestlers. That's when, you kind of get stuck in that you get stuck with that like mud show label, right? A bunch of dumpy dudes in trash bag pants. It doesn't matter how great their flipping is. People just kind of remember that they have certain visual expectations when you see wrestlers, right? So, two big guys can have a pretty boring match, but as long as the finish was okay, they're okay. If a match is kind of the shits, everybody knows that sucks. But as long as the match that comes after it is better, no one's going to remember that the match before was the shits. But they're going to remember if your ring looks like crap. They're going to remember if your marketing collateral looks cheap, feels cheap. You're being judged right out the box. Something like like I said, the ring step thing didn't bother me. I understand shit happens. Listen, anybody's ever worked in an indie show, you'd be amazed at all the kinds of different things that have been used to emulate ring steps. It just kind of is what it is. But again, this is supposed to be a top tier company, and you're supposed to show up like a top tier company, and they just again, yet again, did not. And I'm tired of seeing these outlets make excuses for this stuff. I don't know why. I don't know if you want me to name names, but
Kevin, you have freedom to do anything you want in the show. We can't. I can't get fired, so you can just go off if you want.
I
You're
got
ready.
you. So again, like, a dude like Sean Ross Sapp, why are you simping for these guys? You're sitting here watching it. You should be smart enough in the game to know when, if someone, if some, if you order creme brulee and someone hands you a plate of dog shit, you should know the difference between creme brulee and the dog shit. And he sits there and he'll shovel up that crap and tell you it's the greatest thing. It's the greatest thing that he's ever tasted. And it's like, well, bro, like you stop it. We know you're lying. I just I don't get the simp mentality that still surrounds this company. And clearly, a lot of other people feel that way too, because we're now 105 days, 104 days removed from them getting anything near remotely close to a million views. And we're well on the road to 500K, which was everything I told everybody was that's the actual danger zone now. That's the danger zone. You dip below 500K, that's when your demo is so small, marketing companies go, it doesn't matter. There's no one watching this shit, and they seem to want to get there. We're going to see what happens, right? It's almost time for that annual 60% drop off the closer we get to the NBA finals. They only got a couple months left. And every year once the finals are done, they seem to have lost anywhere from 70 to 100,000 people. God help them. Right now they're clocking in at what? 560, 570 on a good week. Maybe they can touch six or get close to it. It's not looking good. People are tired of it. People are tired of it.
So I'll run down the card quickly. It was after the NBA slam dunk contest, which I already had problems with because hey, the slam dunk contest nobody really cares about anymore because nobody really enters it. But you had 5 matches. Omega and Will Ospreay defeated Cal Fletcher, Konosuke Takashita. Mercedes Mone beat Harley Cameron. The Death Riders beat Cope and Jay White. Kazuchika Okada defeated Buddy Matthews, and Timeless Tony Storm defeated Mariah May. The longest match was with two guys, one of them, against two other guys, and one Omega. He still doesn't look good. He looks like it's like he's getting back into shape for wrestling, and it's like okay, I get diverticulitis takes a lot out of people. Ask Brock Lesnar, but what are they doing giving 23 minutes to a match where one of a guy you're looking going oh sure, the other two guys on the other time it's like okay, well, we're gonna have you lose to two guys who, hey, we know you're the future, but hey, we're gonna have you lose to a 41-year-old who probably still isn't good health, and Will Ospreay, who is colder than fish nuggets.
Yep. Well, that's the thing, right? One, why wasn't this Aussie Open, right? His partner joined the Don Callis family, so this should have been Aussie Open against Omega and Osprey. Granted, what's his name? He looked phenomenal. I think it's one of the best matches he's had in the last couple of months. The guy, and him and Fletcher, they do have really good chemistry. But I watched this match. I was like, what is this match doing for Kyle Fletcher other than nothing? Because this was a very bored and despondent looking Kenny Omega. I think I said in my Twitter, I I I think we're going to be hard pressed to find a person more disinterested in being in AEW than Kenny Omega at this moment. He looks like he would rather be doing anything other than what he's doing, and I think it's more than he's having he needs a little extended time to recover. And he took a really long time. He's doing what he can. Listen, at this point, also too though, he's 41 and he wrestled a very reckless style, in very stiff conditions. So yeah, at some point in time, Father Time is undefeated. You're gonna move a little bit slower. You're not gonna jump as high. The RVD was an absolute freak of nature, and even RVD has slowed down a little bit, So it happens to everyone. But I really think personally this is more Omega's like he sees this for what it is. It wasn't what he wanted it to be. And I think he realized that signing that super long contract extension 2 years ago was probably a mistake because he'd be in greener pastures right now. He probably, he I don't I think that if they were to bring him in, he would go straight to the main roster. Maybe do a quick little maybe debut at an NXT pay-per-view, do one quick little thing at the next pay-per-view, and then be on the main roster. But clearly, he's not there to not be seen by anybody on TV. If he wanted that, he could have stayed in Japan and been being paid handsomely. The Osprey, dude, I don't know why people keep pretending this guy is the best in the world. I don't see it. I don't see. He's just like here. At least I'll give him this. His energy in the match was palpable. He was clearly very excited to be there, but he was the only person who was excited to be there. That match was Will Ospreay mugs for the camera and tells Kenny Omega to do things he doesn't really want to do. It's all I got out of it. And again, I go, what did this match do for Kyle Fletcher? You're building this kid. Listen, I'll say it all. I know it might be contradictory to some things I've said on the show in the past, where wins and losses don't really matter because it's the heel's job to lose, right? But at no point in time were Osprey and Omega actually in danger. So they there was no like it wasn't even like a 50-50 thing like they're trading back and forth and it was a we snatched a victory at the last second. These guys kind of got beat up and got the bare minimum amount of heel heat necessary to facilitate something that vaguely resembled a couple of hot tags, and you should only really be doing one anyway. Unless we're trading it back and forth, right? But it just the match did nothing for me. It was just a human highlight reel that was a bit too long. And again, this should have been Aussie Open. You turn these guys heel, um, put them in the Callis family. You should have sent them home, given them the moment, given them the glory together, uh, and and then moved whatever is supposed to vaguely resemble being the story forward. It's what they won because Tony decided to do yet another tournament, and for some reason, Kenny Omega is the final boss of the tournament, a guy who hasn't won on TV in what, over a year. I don't quite get, or what, only won one match or two matches on TV in over a year. I don't understand. What was the point of this? What are you trying to accomplish? And and why are you shitting all over your current champion? When the champion's always supposed to be the final boss, is the freaking champion. Stupid.
Well, if you think that's stupid, let's talk about, as you see in the picture, folks, the Grand Slam the other tag match where it was the Death Riders versus Cope and Jay White. In this match, I heard sucked ass swallowed. And oh, by the way, the lights went out and nothing really happened in between. How did they screw this up? I mean, how do you screw? Well, when he came over, John Moxley was a hot property for a while. He was a fine champion. It seemed like he was out of WB shackles. He was, he was done with Vince. He was happy, and now he's back to like, okay, it feels like it got phoned in. He's just, you know, playing sort of Edward Norton early character meets a bunch of, weekend warriors. And meanwhile, we see Jay White and Cope, who look like, okay, we're the grandkids. What the hell happened here? What is going on? I mean,
So,
I'm laughing, but I'm pissed.
so,
It's sort of like
I,
in between like the fans
I
here.
know. So I'll start with saying this. I feel that John Moxley is probably the only person on that roster who actually wants AEW to succeed. He's not looking to cash out to go back to WWE. He probably sees himself retiring there, right? Because Jericho knows at any moment he could stop bilking Tony for all the money, and he can go to WWE and go right into the Hall of Fame, right? Same thing with him. Same thing with Edge. He can go sign a Legends deal, pop up every once in a blue moon, and as long as he stays active, he'll maybe get like a match. He probably get like three more matches out of him for a decent payday, but wrap it up and live very comfortably. The only person who has anything to prove is probably Christian, because for some reason he never got his due in the WWE, and Christian's probably the only person who actually made AEW work for him, and that's a testament to Christian. Moxley, though, I never. Oh, no, I'll take that back. When the Shield first started, I thought that Moxley was going to be the star of the Shield. Then they break up. Then everybody scream, "Put the belt on Moxley! Put the belt on Moxley!" He gets the title, and it was an effing dud. AJ Styles showed up, kicked the door off the hinges, embarrassed him on national TV, and became the champion that SmackDown Live needed. And Moxley, wanting to poor little rich guy boo boo face mode, and rode it out until his contract expired here in AEW. And yeah, sure, fine, he was a fine champion, but let's look at who the champions have been. You put the belt on Jericho right out the box because you need that attitude era, still a star, validation, right? Jericho, I'll give him his due. Jericho was a fine champion right in the beginning. This guy's in his 50s, he's still tearing it up. Who comes after that? Who was after Jericho? Um,
And
and I,
then there's been Kenny Omega, and then there was
I
Moxley, and then after a while you had
yeah.
CM Punk,
So
you've had MJF.
So and then now we're back to Moxley. Moxley is someone who should not have Moxley can't be running his own creative. He should be giving you ideas. He should be running his own creative. Because right now, no one's into the story because nobody knows what the hell the story is. We open it up by quoting Romper Stomper and borrowing borrowing some select passages from from some controversial historical figures that you shouldn't be borrowing things from. Then we start getting a little weird American History X-ish. And then now we're just kind of like where we are. Like I don't understand it. The storyline started out, like the only thing that made sense was, hey, I'm the only one here who should be a champion. The rest of you guys are phoning it in. And because of that, I'm gonna surround myself with a bunch of other workhorses who take this seriously. And until there's a worthy opponent, a worthy challenger, I'm not gonna let you lay eyes on the title. Great. Where have we gone since then? Absolutely nowhere. And frankly, whoever takes the title off of him should not be someone who has been a champion somewhere else. This really should have come down to someone who was a breakout star in AEW. They blew it with Hobbs. Hobbs really should have been the one to do this. And again, it always comes down to the finishes, man. Like you could have had him, they could have wrestled on Dynamite. Hobbs not going to go over, but like the finish of a match is an art style, but it also is extremely important. You need to be creative. They could have finished off Hobbs in a way that Moxley got through by the skin of his teeth, and it was only by the help of Marina Shafir, and Hobbs still gets up, looks strong, looks powerful, and we can do this again. Instead, they put a bow on it, made Hobbs look stupid, and I know he's still kind of on TV, but where's he gonna go? Well, we're gonna do this for Edge is gonna come in now. Like, okay, great, it's Edge, but who cares? Because Cope is not Edge. It's like it's not the same fire. He should not be the conquering hero. He should not be the conquering hero taking a title off of the other former WB guy. It just doesn't work for the story. Slash, they've choked him out, left him laying like 400 times. I don't understand what the point of this match was. In reality, the finish of this match, right? If Cope and Jay White were not going to go over on the team, right? If they weren't gonna pin Cesaro, then the match should have been Moxley should have done something that effed Jay White at the last second, and Edge slides in, at the 3.5 count of the three, just a little too late, and then he stares down Mox from the middle while protecting Jay White, so we have something to build to. Instead, he got choked out in the middle of the ring again. So we watched him get choked out in a 6-man. We watched him get choked out by himself in promos. He got choked out during a tag match. Oh, but watch the pay-per-view to see what happens. So what you're telling me is if Edge happens to win this, Edge just won it because someone said it was his turn. That's not an exciting title win. That's just not. That does nothing for the story. And honestly, if I were Tony, I wouldn't have let it get this far. But they should be doing something, anything that changes the tone of the story. Because what we rolled out of here from the Bucks, the Bucks slash the Elite, beating up on Tony, beating up on Omega, and then somehow they got overshadowed by Moxley. So and then Moxley dropped that part of the we're taking over story because I'm assuming the Shane McMahon deal fell through. So what the hell are we doing? Like this is silly. This is a silly pointless feud. Um, or or you do the other thing, right? They brought in the Hurt Syndicate, tried to make them heels, but what happened? Which what anybody with half a brain would have predicted what was going to happen was you have two superior athletes who are built like Greek gods, and they're bigger than everybody. They're bigger and better than everybody. Those thirsty fans cheered for them and made them the conquering heroes. So If you're not going to give it to an AEW original like you should, and I get it, the list of appropriate contenders is really small, right? We destroyed Wardlow. Again, it really should have been Wardlow, should have been Hobbs, right? But they destroyed Wardlow. It's not going to be stupid Orange Cassidy. I don't know what are you holding up for Darby. All right, I guess. All right. If you want your aunt's lesbian's roommate, like your lesbian aunt's roommate to come in and win your title, fine, whatever. The but they just it's slim pickings, and at this point, they need as much credibility as they can possibly get. And I'm talking from like the person who's just flipping through the channels, because when you put on AEW, like look at this shot right here. It looks like, oh, I mean, let's be like Marina Shafir looks like she would rather be anywhere else. Moxley, although in decent shape, is not in the shape that you would see somebody on Raw. It just looks like two shirtless guys standing around. You're going to be hard pressed to wonder if you clicked the wrong channel. So, and then with then you got the green haired loser right in the middle of it, all of it. This isn't anything that's remotely appealing to somebody who wants to watch. It's just not. It's just not. So, but they're wondering why they can't get me to watch this fucking show. And again, listen, yeah, we skipped over a Mercedes and Harley.
That's my next topic here because I like Harley Cameron. She's not ready. She has barely 60 matches. You could argue that she should have never been put in this position. Did a great job building it. Look, she's talented. I'd love to see her in TNA where she could actually develop and not get thrown through the wood chipper. But hey, she got thrown through the wood chipper. So how do you fix her? And what do you do with Mercedes Mone, who does not look like she really is invested? Like, okay, I'm here. I'm getting paid. I'm waiting for that next TV gig. Hey, Marvel, Disney, is there anything? No, like, how do you
Mercedes,
fix that? Because that match sucked. It did
yep.
nothing for anybody. And
Well, all Mercedes matches suck. We gotta be real. Mercedes is there because the money mark gave her a lot of money. She is hoeing him out until something better comes along. That is just the end all be all of it. She does not want to be there. She does not take it seriously. She is shrewd enough to know what it is. She's no different than all the other legends who got a whole bunch of money to go hang out there. She's getting paid buku bucks, barely has to work, and is going over everybody. Harley Cameron, listen, Harley is a victim of what all the younger performers or less experienced indie talent is victim to when they get signed to AEW. There's too many people on the roster, and your promoter is not a booker. So he does not know how to leverage talent. He doesn't know how to develop talent. He doesn't know how to foster talent. Harley got her chance because Mercedes needed another victim. What they didn't count on was Harley has natural charisma. Harley has a lot of entertainment value. The character, just for whatever, the character, although kind of bizarre, started to shine through. But she can do all kinds of different things that I would say if Vince McMahon got his hands on her, she'd be a billionaire right now with all the things they would have done in terms of market her. She would have had 60 puppets that would have been top sellers on the WWE website. She probably would have had a full CD out right now. She would have maximized to the moon. Unfortunately, she's in AEW where her equity has gone to die. But again, so I don't listen, the thing with wrestling where you can't where wrestling is different from other sports, right? Is yes, Harley has won how many matches on Dynamite? I think it was zero. Right. She won zero matches or maybe only one match the entire time she's been there. She was like what 1 in 60 or some bullshit. She's barely wrestled the entire time she's been there. But with wrestling, it is oftentimes less about the record and more about momentum or being in the right place at the right time. Right. So storyline wise, she happened to run afoul Mercedes. That's all you need. That's all you need to get a match. But because there's a dearth of over baby faces, especially in the women's division, the the only finish this match Harley shouldn't was never going to go over. She should never. It just we'll be very clear about that. There was no way in hell Harley was going over in this match. However, there's a very specific finish that you should have had for Harley in this match. You're in her home country. She's just catching fire. The she should have the simplest, most effective finish for this match would have been they're 50-50 in the beginning. Mercedes is finally in trouble for the first time. She has no one there to back her up. She gets a very blatant DQ. Boom. Ref calls for the bell. While she does something while Harley is selling whatever Mercedes did to get the DQ. Mercedes goes in for the finish. Harley counters, one big bump. Mercedes powders, snatches her belt in the ramp, and Boo Boo faces her way to the back. Harley stands in the ring, triumphant in her hometown. Great visual. Now you made her. Now all you have to do is give her a couple of extra wins over the next couple of weeks on Collision and Dynamite, and now you have taken someone who should have never been in a match, and now you have a certified contender, and you can throw her in with anybody else you can throw her in with if you don't want to put her back in with Mercedes, right? That's not what we got. This match was another one of those. I call it a 60-40 split, 60% Mercedes, never in any real danger. Harley goes for something, she misses, and then she has to take that unconvincing finish, which makes her look incompetent. She made Harley look stupid. We hit the unconvincing move, and because she's such a weeb, Mercedes looks like she hurts herself every time she takes the move. And then that was it, over and done with, done and dusted. And now and that crowd was not giving Mercedes heel heat. They were giving so like when you look at a heel and you look at a storyline, especially in a storyline where like the heel is going to win a lot, there's a couple things you got to be cognizant of. You can tease the audience, right? I guess to I guess maybe to to be crude, I guess think of it like think of like some girl you're talking to, right? The you're messing around, and the first time you try for something, she cuts you off, and you're like, cool, okay, I get it, I get it, I get it. The second time, you go for a little more, but she cuts you off, okay, I get it, I get it, I get it, I get it, I get it. Fast forward 7 months, if she's still cutting you off, you're like, well, fuck you, go away. I don't need this shit. It's the same thing with heels. When the baby face is chasing the heel one should never be winning with the heel should never really be winning clean. They should be doing something that fucks the baby face at the absolute last second so they get away. Oh, they almost got him. You come back again, and the heel now finds a new way to fuck the baby face. Oh my God, I can't believe they got away again. You do it a third time. Oh my God. If you come back in for the fourth time, now you need like a run. Oh, well, if it wasn't for that guy, this guy wouldn't have won. This fucking guy got away by the skin of his teeth again. If you keep not giving people the win, right? Oh, and then you do something where like again, that's why Dusty finishes have people make fun of them. But at the time, Dusty finishes worked. Dusty finishes worked because you had to give a babyface a win. So you do something where like maybe the babyface wins, but the decision gets reversed because some shenanigans happened. It's You've got to give the people a feel good moment. When you don't give the people a feel good moment, then your heel heat turns into fuck you, go away heat. I know she's gonna win. This is bullshit. This is wasting my time. This match isn't even good. They boo her out the building. This Mercedes run has been a fucking disaster. She showed up with no heat. 2 months into it, she was greeted with raging indifference, and it's just gotten worse from there. Has gotten worse. The people are booing because they do not want to see her. They just don't care. Her promos stink. They're devoid of anything that remotely resembles passion. They're unconvincing. She's a cosplay superstar. She is faking it until she makes it, and she's shown everybody why she didn't make it under Vince's rule. She don't have it, whatever it is. And Vince was 100% correct to be like, yeah, nah, you're not the one. And now she's got her hands in Tony's pockets, and she's going to be there until Triple H says he wants to, restore his collection, and then maybe able to bring her back for some kind of fucking nostalgia tour that'll fall flat after 6 months because it's always gonna be the same shit with her. She stinks. She's not good. She fucking sucks. But again, we put over the weeb that no one cares about instead of making a new star. And when it was super easy to make a new star, I don't get it. We're 5 years in the AEW. This dude has not figured it out. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you saw do you see the Road Dogg interview with Chris Van Vliet where he talked about Kofi and Biggie? Um, Road Dogg talked about how he during Kofi Mania did not he wanted to be Biggie going into WrestleMania 35. And the other writers were like, no, man, you got this wrong. It's supposed to be Kofi. And what Road Dogg said was at the time he didn't see it, he didn't understand it. But as it went on, he realized that he was wrong. He was right. Biggie it was going to be the guy, but it wasn't Biggie's moment. It was Kofi's moment. Kofi had the connection with the fans. It was the right way to go. Now that he saw it, he also realized, okay, hey, there's a better way to have handled Kofi. I think we should give Kofi another shot at some point in time. I have a really good way to do it. So what this showed was that this showed some introspection that we have not seen come out of Tony at all. Road Dogg realized that he made a mistake. He realized that the people around him were correct. He realized that he had to change course, and because they changed course, it gave him the ability to one. He knew how to handle Biggie differently and better. He knows how he would have, if he could go back, how he would have handled Kofi, how he would have handled Kofi differently than they wound up ultimately handling Kofi. So there was introspection, there was an acknowledgement of the people, and there was growth. Instead of doubling and tripling down on the same broken mud show bullshit that does not work, the show is failing consistently for 4.5 of its 5.5 years, and we're riding that bullet train to 500K and less, and it just doesn't look like it's going to be different. And look. I mean, I didn't watch. I didn't get a chance to watch Dynamite yet, but
Well,
I
that's
did.
what we're hold on because that's the next topic here as we go to the new screen. And I know as soon as you see this, it's gonna just like rage will come through your pores here. That's right. Megan Bain was beating down her opponent. Thunder Rosa comes down with a chair and she's about to hit Megan Bain, but what happens? Oh, Anna Jay gets in the way, shields her. She Thunder Rosa swings is about to swing it. She's going to hit Anna Jay and Thunder and Megan Bain, but nope, she stops midway, and that's it. And as a promoter, I could just hear you going, "Who's going to get fired?" So I would fire somebody. Maybe all four of these people. Like, how,
Well,
how do they screw this up? How do you screw this? Like screwing up toast and jam.
yeah.
How do you screw it up?
Again, part of this is, one, like, fine, yes. Megan Bain was trained by Damian Adams, who was a phenomenal teacher. She was trained by Rip Rogers, who's the Yoda of wrestling instructors. But unless you have worked, unless you have worked in an environment where you are being trained to work TV, it is a different skill set. Being proficient in the ring and being able to work TV are two different skill sets. You cannot take an indie person who has not ever had to work anything that vaguely resembles TV and drop them in a live national television environment. That's where you get this shit. Again, 5.5, 6 years in, AEW should be aware of this. They should be aware this is something that should have never happened. WWE does walkthroughs on everything for a reason. It's so that talent understands timing, positioning, and their relationship to the production crew. Because they do this is one, not everybody has the same experience. Yes, the other than the location of the hard cam, and you should be working towards the hard cam, Not all companies handle their TV the same. You need to teach your talent how to work your TV. If they've never worked TV, you need to teach your talent how to work TV. This is why it's so important, especially with wrestling schools, and there aren't a lot of them that do this anymore. And a lot of that is because a lot of these wrestling schools are run by people who have never had the experience. So they'll bullshit you. They'll bullshit you, make you run a bunch of drills. But unless your lead instructor is someone who has worked TV, you don't know what you don't know. You just don't. You just don't. I was fortunate to have been trained by someone who was an enhancement talent for all major companies. And the first thing he does is because he would run his own, he ran his own TV show, was he made sure that you understood the difference between having a TV match, the difference between having a house show match, and how no matter what you're doing and what kind of match you're working, you need to be mindful of where the cameraman is, and you need to be mindful of how you engage and work with the crowd. That is first and foremost. Megan Bain, Megan Bain, again, she's tall, statuesque, beautiful woman, gotten a lot of accolades in a very short amount of time, but she's never been put in front of a live camera. When you send her out there and you don't give her very explicit instructions, stuff like this happens. Now, listen, there are some things that you should know instinctively, right? Like, one of the things is if you are a heel, and this for Anna Jay too, if you are a heel and your segment ends, if you are within arm's length of the baby face has a responsibility to light your ass up. Because even if the baby face won or if the baby face lost, the match is still kind of in play because you haven't left the ring yet. So if I'm gonna go square up with someone, I need to understand that if I'm a heel, the baby face the baby face's duty so they don't look stupid is to whoop my ass. If the baby face comes in the ring with a weapon or some other kind of equalizer, my job is to get out of the ring and powder and put the baby face over. Why? Because the baby face has a weapon, they're pissed off, and they're coming to take my head off. And we're gonna flip it. When you are greener than goose shit and you're wrestling your matches, when you get in there with an older vet, especially if you're a heel and the vet's a baby, when they tell you they're gonna do something, they're gonna be like, "Hey kid, we're gonna blah 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 blah. Um, the what we're gonna do is we're doing it this way because I need you to look good so that I look good. But if you look bad, it makes me look bad, and we all look like shit. So I've got to protect. I'm gonna protect myself, and that means I'm gonna protect you. But if something goes bad, I gotta protect myself. So when they don't get out the ring, and you very clearly see Thunder say something effective, "Get out." She's telling them to get away. The When neither one of them moved, she got a chair in her hand. She should have swung it but because she did it, we got what we got. She looked weak and stupid. The girls looked stupid and incompetent. It shit all over the segment. It just shit all over the segment. The so it's and there's a reason why the old timers would do what they did. If you fucked up and you blew your spot, you blow your comeback, you blow your cue, um, they know that they have to save whatever's happening. So that means they're gonna call an audible, and and if you got to catch a whooping from a chair, you got to catch a whooping from a chair. Credibility is your first and only real friend when you are a performer. The second you look stupid, the second you look weak, it shits all over everything. It ruins it. It ruins it. And if you were in a territory, for the most part, you are seeing the same people in the same building, every every Saturday, or rather say like every at least twice a month, right? Or hell, they may even followed you around. They may have even followed you around to the two or three buildings in your area. But once you look stupid in one building, you look stupid in all the other buildings because everybody saw it. And then when it popped up on local TV, everybody saw it. The credibility is it's your best friend, man. And I'm aghast. that this even happened. And it's not the girl's fault. It's not the girl's fault. It's production's fault. It's for the production's. Hey guys, what your segment is? Okay, you guys are gonna beat up whatever it was, and then Megan Thunder's gonna come out. She's gonna have a chair, so she's gonna come out swinging. So you know what you guys gotta do? You guys gotta powder. You need to confirm that she understands it. If she forgot it, well, Mara J was there. Mara J should be like, hey, we got to get the hell out of here. Or Thunder goes, hey, I got this chair. You got to get out. I'm gonna start swinging. Once I start swinging, if you're there, you're getting hit. Sucks to be you, but that's what's got to happen. No one did that. But let's be real about it too. Why didn't Thunder listen to? Because Thunder got brought up. Thunder got brought up old school, so she knows. Thunder's whooped a lot of people's asses who deserved it. So the why didn't she do the right thing here? We know why she didn't do the right thing here. Because if Thunder swung and sent their heads into the empty bleachers like she should have, she would have been labeled a locker room cancer, and the sickos would have lit her up online, and her entire existence down in that company is one of misery. I suspect it's already one of misery as it is now. Anyway,
Oh, she would have been fired. And look, but that's my
but she
point
would
here
have
is
been fired.
that
Tony
yeah,
doesn't fire me. He doesn't have balls enough to. Unless it's Jack Perry. Putting hands on Jack Perry seems to be the only way to get you fired in that company.
or you assault a woman like Bronson, like Bear Bronson, but it's a different story. But I mean, and I apologize, it was Penelope before, but that's my point here is like, where's Dean Malenko? He should have at least, grabbed one of by the arm, before Penelope ran in, before Thunder ran in, and said, "Hey, look, do you know the plan? This is the plan. This is what we're doing." Like, it
Yeah,
just
but
boggles my mind that nobody pulled him aside, even like two
you
hours
got
before, to said, "This is the plan."
that's not how things happen in that company though, man. I have firsthand accounts. I've mentioned it before. I have firsthand accounts from people that were backstage in the beginning. You got Jerry Lynn. You got Jerry Lynn talking to guys about how to put their matches together, and they're looking at him going, "What the fuck did you ever do?" Meanwhile, I'm like, "Yo, Jerry Lynn is the only reason your fucking frail ass is even in that ring." That guy knocked down all the doors that made it open, that made it possible for you never should have been trained to be in a position that you're in. And you're telling this guy, what did you ever do? What? So that's the mindset. Because there is no actual leadership. The expectant children behave like the twatty Gen Z expected children that they are. Which is why this company can't be taken seriously and isn't taken seriously. The so you've got these fantastic minds there that are being wasted, being absolutely wasted because they're trying to help these kids. And yes, there are some that listen, right? There's some that listen, but the majority do not. And because the majority do not, you get shit like this. The so I and I don't blame Megan, although she should have known better. But I don't blame Megan. I blame the production crew. You know you have a rookie. You have a rookie. First of all, I think I bitched about her entrance a couple weeks ago, right? Her lame ass entrance. But nobody knows who she is. So you just have her walk out with what's it called, PowerPoint name logo, no fair, no introduction pack. It's just, oh, Megan Bain's here. Who the hell knows who she is unless you were someone from the Northeast. Like they don't introduce characters with like characters don't get over. But she's brand fucking new, dude. She's only had what? Well, I hardly ever watch Collision, so I don't know if she's done much on Collision, but she hasn't done much on Dynamite. So like your job is to 9 hours before the fucking show, you should be doing a full walkthrough of all segments. Okay, let's do your entrance. Your entrance needs to take like you guys have 8 minutes. That includes your entrances. Let's see how long your entrances take, so we really know what this looks like, right? Because they're brand spanking new. They haven't done this 1,000 times. Turning around to Nick Nemeth and telling Nick that he has 10 minutes plus entrances with someone like with someone like a Josh Alexander. Well, they've been working TV long enough that they know. They know exactly how long their entrance takes and exactly what they're going to do. They know what that looks like. Megan Bain does not. She does not know what that looks like. So you need to walk through everything. She should be walking through her entrance so she knows how long it takes, where she needs to turn so that she knows what camera she needs to be looking into, where she needs to be flexing. She gets into the ring. Boom. Okay, great. Now this is the finish of the match. So at minute, at minute 7:35 in your 8 minute match, Thunder in your 8 minute segment, Thunder's gonna come out. All right, Thunder, let's go. Let's see what it looks like. Boom. Thunder hits the ring. Okay, Mara, Thunder, you're there. All right, guys, powder, get to the stage. Hit your spots in the camera. We'll hit the music. Thunder, do what you got to do into the hard cam. Protect the person on the floor. A mean mug, and we're going to fade to black. We're going to cut out to commercial. You have to walk them through. You have to walk people through. They need to know. Listen, dude, they were doing this in ROH. Wrestlers were walking through their entrances and doing and doing training for camera work. So if ROH proper, not I mean not the bastardized zombie version of it, but this is something that was being done in other places. There's no reason that AEW does not do this, and because they don't do it, you get bullshit like this.
Well, we're going to go something more positive because I feel like we've been so negative. We're going to be positive, and that leads me to we're getting
This was
street
awesome.
match. And of course, the IWCs have gone, oh, why wasn't there promos? Why wasn't there packages? But
Well, you want to know
this,
why?
this, let's first start off. How nice do you like this? That it's TNA's moves versus NXT's Oba Femi. And this helps all parties. Like Oba can get to work with somebody who's big, powerful, can
Mm-hmm.
work a good match.
Yep.
And Moose is getting a rub from NXT. So break it down. Did they know the packages, or is Moose one of those guys where everybody knows, oh, it's Moose?
A little bit of both. Well, so no, you don't. Well, so you don't need a package for Moose because this was supposed to be a surprise. So if I'm someone who's watching at home, right? So if I'm a college football fan, I know Moose from Syracuse. If I'm an NFL guy, I know that Moose is on the Falcons, right? So I'm like, oh shit, is that what's his last name? What's his real last name? Um,
Ain't no Jinka, I believe.
yeah. So I'm like, oh, you're like, oh shit, is that Moose? The First of all, Moose is what, 6'5"? 6'5" at 300 pounds. You don't need an introduction. Your presence is your introduction. And your presence delivers instantaneous credibility. That is the end all be all of it. When that man comes out, you're like, oh shit, who's that? And then if I have that oh shit, who's that moment, I watch NXT, but maybe I don't watch TNA. He gets in the ring. I'm like, oh my god, he's actually bigger than Oba Femi. And you're like, oh wait, he's a guy from Impact. And then maybe your father walks in and goes, bro, that guy was on the Falcons, and he leaves. So now I'm like, oh shit, everybody's chanting Moose. This guy's name is Moose. That's when you go to YouTube. I'm gonna go pull up some Moose matches. Maybe I'm gonna go watch. Maybe I'm gonna go watch Impact. But all I know is that another giant human being has confronted the giant human being I watch murder people every week. I know that it's going to be a Haas fight. So it can't disappoint right out the box. Now, next week, when we come to do follow up, that's when you get your Moose package because they whet your they had to whet your appetite. So if you're gonna do a surprise, you gotta do a surprise big. You gotta do surprise big, and then when you come back in for the follow up, I get rewarded for coming back and being curious. So now you give me the Moose video package. After I see the Moose video package, I go, man, I need to see a little bit more of this guy, and maybe you go to Amazon Prime, pull up the TNA channel, or you jump on Pluto TV, or you figure where it airs live, or maybe you download the Impact app, and now you watch Moose matches, but that's the beauty of the relationship with NXT is. So even though this was a down week, right? What did NXT have? What was the NXT rating?
689,000 compared to AEW's 535,000. Yes.
Yeah, so this was a down week for NXT, but still over 600,000 people watched us live. Oh, watched us live on the CW. I didn't get a chance to look at see what the replays were on the on the YouTube or the but I saw that the retweets, retweets and the likes were through the roof on NXT's and WWE's Twitter. So like the exposure is there. It won, and any exposure from the WWE will carry over into TNA. Look, they sold out. How they sold out Full Sail both nights almost immediately, almost immediately. So the enthusiasm and the rub from the WWE partnership is there. All this does now is expose Moose to an even bigger audience. I was honestly shocked that they didn't try to get Moose sooner. I thought that maybe some of his past troubles would have been an issue, but it has been an issue in TNA, so probably wouldn't be an issue there. And then I think I was talking to somebody, they said that they thought maybe he may have had one concussion too many for their protocols. But this is a fantastic entry. This is a fantastic entry for Moose to getting super exposure to the biggest audience. And it's an awesome opportunity. The Oba gets to work someone who's bigger than him, which there aren't that many. But when you're a big guy, you have to learn how to work. You have to learn how to work like a big guy. This is why Keith Lee failed when he got to the big roster, rather say the main roster, and why he didn't really land with much impact in AEW. When you're a big guy, yeah, fine, you can do all that flippy dippy shit. That's cool. Well, people want to see big men wrestle like big men. So you got to do the power shit. You got to be hard hitting. Keith Lee was some of those little fucking bitch forearms. He was more interested in doing some flippy shit and trying to do the Fraser Crane impression than being a big murderous monster. The Because that's what people want to see. Now, listen, being a big murderous monster and then showing people that on the side, you're really rather quite eloquent and a charmer. That comes with time. But when you're in the ring, people don't want to see a paper tiger. They want to see a bloodthirsty, ravenous beast who's going to eat the gladiator. They don't want to see a fucking 16-year-old chihuahua with no teeth. The and that's honestly why he didn't work versus Oba Femi, who has been dominant. People have been anxiously awaiting his going up to the main roster. Moose has fantastic matches. From when Moose first showed up in TNA to where he is today, his promo game is incredible. His physique has changed tremendously. He is super dynamic in the ring. It's fun to watch Moose matches, and with him being being the X Division champion again, it's been pretty cool, man. So this should be an interesting match because also Moose works a slightly faster pace than a WWE big guy. So when Oba comes up to the main roster, although he is bigger than a lot of people up there, when it comes to the main eventers, um, he's not going to be the giant beast that he is in NXT. So he's going to sell a little bit more, right? If he's going to have to sell a little bit more, he's going to have to put a little bit of work in. So this is an opportunity for him to be primed to have more competitive matches. Again, he's still gonna lump people up because he's just an imposing figure, but they're gonna be more competitive. Oba Femi isn't gonna body Gunther or Damian Priest, like how he does what's his name like he does Wesley
Austin Theory, and even
yeah,
Triple H.
yeah,
And I get here's the question with both these two guys because you've been in that scenario. Criticism with Moose, forget about the past, his personal stuff. Within the ring is he shouldn't sell a lot. He should just go in there and murk people. And I get it. TNA doesn't have the depth. I mean, only WWE has the depth where you can just murk a bunch of people. You're hearing that also with Open now. It says like, oh, he can't just go in there. Like, how tough is it where you want them to be big guys and work big men style? At the same time, if you just, if it's a realistic fight, these guys, if Moose takes on Austin, Ace Austin, or Oba takes on, Grayson Waller, that's not going to be an 8 minute, 9 minute fight. It's going to be 30 seconds, 2 minutes maybe, and the little guy's going to basically need a stretcher. So how tough is it when you're trying to keep the big man protected, and at the
Well,
same time you don't want to just make tell people, yeah, this is fake and blah 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 blah, and it's
well,
more complicated when we give it credit for it.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's an art form to it, and listen, and I, I think one people need to understand, in um listen, we have seen situations in the world, in fighting where the little guy may go out there and actually dominate a big guy. He jump on the back, choke him out real quick. Taz was the king of that, and shoot fights, you see it all the time. So it is possible, but in wrestling, you have to tell the story. You have to earn that, right? You have to earn the David and Goliath story. There is there your mission when you're putting your match together, you got to have the Vidal Sassoon mentality. If you don't look good, I don't look good, right? That's the end all be all of it. So if I'm wrestling a smaller guy and I'm going over, the better I make him look, the better I look. There is a way to. So I think who did Moose wrestle at the last pay-per-view? Um,
His last feud was
was it
Ace
Ace
Austin.
Austin? Was
Yes,
it
it
Ace Austin,
was
right?
Ace Austin. Yes.
So they told a hell of a story, right? Moose didn't take you know, Moose took some decent bumps. Some people may say he took one too many, but he worked with Ace's strengths, right? The because you can't have like flying for the for cruiserweights. That's their advantage, right? So Moose comes in, like you get it. It's Moose grabs you, you're in trouble. Boom, 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 boom. Do something where you're making a mistake, then the babyface gets to capitalize. And then the smaller babyface got to chop the big Sequoia down. So that's where the rule of three comes in, right? Like you can like well, again, same thing with big guys, right? Like so, shoulder tackle spots, the classic shoulder tackle spot. Boom, I hit throw. Boom, one. I'm a little like you're bigger than me. I'm a little smaller, but I'm also a big guy, right? So I'm gonna try to take you off your feet. Boom, I hit throws. Boom, we're gonna make contact, and you're gonna give me the old. Oh, you didn't quite knock me down. Boom, I'm gonna go up and do it again. I didn't quite knock you down. Boom, I'm gonna come up for a third one. But now you're ready for so maybe you throw a line, I duck the line, and when you turn around. Boom, I finally got you. Everybody's on their feet. There's a way to tell the story that's super simple that makes everybody look good. It's as simple as the smaller guy just has to put a little extra work into bringing the big Sequoia down. But the trick of the story is, can the little guy absorb the punishment needed before he can get the big Sequoia down? So who's going to break first? Okay, now you got the big guy down. Can the little guy capitalize and keep him down long enough? So again, telling that story isn't as hard. It's honestly it's the wrestlers who make it hard. It's the talent in the match that makes the telling of the story hard because they want to do all this mega unnecessary complicated shit when really it's just like, hey, let's just keep it simple, stupid. People understand the visual. Like again, someone watching the crowd, and I think again, when I say this, I think of like guys like my dad. My dad, when he watched, he was a Dino Bravo, Hercules, Don Morocco, like those were his guys. Big thick monsters. So he wanted to see them, just throw fists. The the but like he also loved Shawn Michaels. Why do you love Shawn Michaels? Because Shawn Michaels was a freaking pit bull in the ring, and it didn't matter if Shawn was wrestling Martel or Sid or Vader. He wrestled. He just wrestled the same. If it was a bigger guy, he wrestled differently. He was more aggressive. It's how you move. Like anytime Shawn wrestled Sid, right? The story is simple. For every one thing that Sid does to Shawn, Shawn has to do 10 things to Sid. And it turns into who's gonna break first. Can Shawn hit the super kick before Sid can snatch a clothesline? Oh, or rather, can snatch a choke slam? And then again, something simple like, boom, they're going back and forth. Sean does the thing where he does a forearm, they goes and fucking does the 4,000 punches in the headlock. Sid throws him off. Maybe goes for a boot. Sean ducks it, turns around, threatens super kick. Sid blocks it. The choke slam. The choke slam tease. Struggle. Maybe he breaks it. Boom. Sweet chin music. Go home. And then it turns to, well, is he going to kick out or not? It's the calling of the match. That's the creativity part of it. As long as you keep it simple, there's a lot of fun to be had, and there's a lot of room to try to play with people's emotions. I have big expectations for this match. They're going to kick the shit out of each other. There's going to be a lot of broken furniture. There's going to be a lot of big kickouts. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, and it's a real opportunity, one for TNA, for one of their larger stars to really feature prominently. Chances are that this what's this Nexus 2.0 storyline that they've got going on, or I guess I should say 3.0, this Nexus 3.0 storyline that they've got going on with the PC kids in the mask, those big boys. They attacked Oba Femi, right? So Oba's not going to have resolved his beef with them. I'm going to say chances are we're not going to get a proper finish. There's going to be a run in, right? There's going to be some kind of a run in, and maybe these two. Well, Moose's heel, right? So maybe they cost Oba his match with Moose, or or something happens where the two of them beat up. They have to fight the four of them. Now that's just speculation, but it's wrestling. That's kind of how these stories ebb and flow, so that you can weave in a new element and keep it going. Again, it's the soap opera mentality. The soaps, back in the day, soaps ran 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, until OJ came and ruined it for everybody. The That is all at an hour a day, so with really big casts. There is a lot of storytelling that has to be done to keep you compelled, to keep you want you tune in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That the A good storyteller understands that my job is to make this feud a destination TV. I don't care if you're watching a streaming. I don't care if you're watching it live. I just need you to show up, and then I need you to care enough that if I'm in your town, that you want to see it live. The NXT has done a phenomenal job of that. I would probably say probably a little bit better. Excuse me. Try not to break my rib open while we're talking. NXT probably done a little bit of a better job being destination TV, a little bit more so than Raw has, as we kind of crawl towards WrestleMania season. We know in about 2 weeks Raw is going to be on fire until it's time for Mania, but until it's a slow crawl to the Elimination Chamber. But NXT has been pretty hot for quite some time, and they've been trying different things on a regular basis to keep you interested and pull people in. That's why NXT more often than not is doing numbers in the high, 800Ks to 900Ks. And I think it's only a matter of time. I'll give about another year, and they're probably sitting, I think NXT will have more weeks with 1 million or more people than they'll have in the low sevens or sixes.
Well, let's go the final positive topic. TNA is now going a lot more corporate. We've seen a new president come in, Carlos Silva. He was formerly from PFL. He's been in Canadian Football League. Recently, they brought in two more new guys. Executive producer George Veras, who's worked with ABC Sports, NBC, CBS, NFL Today, uh, NFL Football Hall of Fame, and former Ring of Honor director and even New Japan Pro Wrestler director Mark Brown, who's now the director of TNA. After
Good.
all these decades, and like, look, we all have made fun of TNA. I'm a TNA fan, but even I've heard of the LOL TNA, and they've gotten just people you look and go, why are they still there? While you get rejects, you're getting recycling Cornette and Russo, and hopefully they don't kill each other. How big is it that they're actually now getting like TV executives, uh, people from the NFL, people actually know, like, okay, this is a television product. It's no longer pro wrestling. This is sports entertainment slash television.
Mhm. Well, listen, one, this is great because now it tells you, I would say speculation is over now. They made a very bold statement. TNA is here to stay. It's not here to become the WWE's second development brand, right? It's a legitimate partnership because there's room. If the rising tide lifts all ships, right? So the better the WWE does, the better a WWE partner can be. And what you now get is an environment where maybe yeah you could see trades between leagues. I'll put it to you that way, right? Like so this is great. TNA is here to stay. The other part of it is that TNA is now, yeah, it's a television product. It is sports-based entertainment, right? I won't say sports entertainment. It's sports-based entertainment. That means there's a definitive structure. As long as you have wrestling guys in there, because you don't, you can't run wrestling if you don't know wrestling, and it takes a little bit longer to know wrestling than it takes to run, than it takes to operate than other sports. So as long as the creative is intact, and they've got solid talent relations who understand the needs of wrestlers. This is great. This is great news. Also, too, these are big players, which means that the likelihood that TNA can wind up with a legitimate new TV deal is fantastic. I wouldn't be shocked if TNA also wound up on the CW. I just wouldn't. CW is looking for content partners, and there's enough room. There's enough room, and with this current partnership, getting these two different brands on the CW would be a phenomenal cross marketing sync relationship that just benefits everybody. As long as they're on opposite ends of the week. I wouldn't do something where like NXT is on and then up next is TNA, because that's just a lot of wrestling. The it was a bit much. When they used to do when it was on Destination America, you had 2 hours of Impact. You had 2 hours of Impact and then 1 hour of ROH, and it was just a bit much. It was just a bit much. So but this is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. This also means for TNA talent that if I can get if I'm trying to break in, and I'm even saying this to someone who's been around for a minute. I'm in my late 20s. I'm in my late 20s, early 30s. I know that I'm probably not going to make it to the WWE. And for whatever reason, AEW won't give me a sniff, probably because I'm built like an athlete, and I'm an overtly heterosexual male. So they're not going to give me a shot. TNA is a viable opportunity for you, because you're gonna get first rate experience. You're gonna get a first rate opportunity to build a brand for yourself, and it just gives you something else to shoot for. And then also too, it gives you access to do other things. Like you can parlay TNA to go to Japan and do other things. Look at Josh Alexander, right? Josh Alexander was a guy who grew up as a TNA fan. He never had aspirations of going to the WWE. He always wanted to go to TNA. He got there. He did it. He became TNA. He became Impact champion. I mean, he had a hell of a run there. He had the career that he wanted to have. It's like it's we forget back in the day there were people who went into wrestling because they wanted to go to WCW, because NWA, World Championship Wrestling was their show. Just like if you grew up, oh, I only want to go to the WWE. WWE happened to be the only, happened to be the winner in the end. But you do get people who go, hey, this is the place where I want to be. This is the place for me. So now it's the more horses in the race, the better. A strong TNA makes WWE more competitive, keeps WWE more innovative. By proxy, it should make AEW more creative, more innovative. But that's a whole nother that's a horse of a whole nother color. This is awesome, man. This is awesome. Now, hopefully, NWA can get its shit together, and they can slide into the old TNA slot. And maybe maybe be maybe be the dark horse organization, and be an accidental heir to ECW. Who knows? But it's AEW is not I would say AEW is not a viable alternative. If you're a young wrestler, don't look at it. Don't fall for it. It is fruit from the poison tree. You're wasting your fucking time.
So here's now the big caveat for TNA because and look, I know I'm putting you in a tough spot because of your relationship with a couple of those people. Like their talent, let's say the creative group I've heard, it's Ace Steel, it's Delirious from Hunter Johnson, Tommy Dreamer. I know you and him are very tight, and Gail Kim. They're wrestlers, and I look, I respect them. I like them, but they're wrestlers writing a wrestling show, and you can tell now with as much as the AEW crowd is kicking and screaming about this is pro wrestling, pro wrestling. It's sports entertainment. We like promos, we like drama, we like scripts. So how does TNA find that? How do they go out and tell these people, especially Gail and Tommy, look, we like you, but we need TV executives to help write scripts. We need people like from Sons of Anarchy, Landman, Mayans to be in the booking committee because most people don't care about 30-minute matches, 60-minute matches. We want characters who people give a crap about.
Well, that'll come in time. You needed stability first. The one, Anthem didn't have the infrastructure. Listen, I would say, I'll put it like this. Tommy, you know, Tommy sat at the right or left hand of Paul Heyman for a very long time. Tommy sat next to Dusty for a very long time. Tommy knows how to put TV together. He understands. He understands the we make movies mentality. Same thing, Gail Kim. Once you're in the WWE and you get to see what it is like, when you get to see how the dragon actually functions, well, you got to be, more than everybody else. Even if you're, again, I make fun of Parker Bordeaux for charging the amount of money that he charged for his short tenure there. But the reality of it is Parker Bordeaux and his 45-second sip of coffee in NXT knows more about how to perform than the average asshole running an indie school, floating around the indies right now. It just is what it is, which is why they handle the indies the way they handle them. It's the blind leading the blind. So we're gonna throw a couple of one-eyed guys because in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. It is what it is. But now that they have or establishing an infrastructure where there are people who can make certain moves, you will see them find consultants who can potentially help them expand the storytelling. Because at the heart of it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's telling the story. Like the the Hollywood writer still has to learn how to write wrestling. Wrestling is wrestling is wrestling. The so they still have to learn the ebbs and flows of how to weave the tale. That's again, I always get, if you're gonna hire a writer, you really should be grabbing soap opera people. Because because of just how they function. The wrestling, again, your machine like the WWE, 52 weeks a year. Well, no, they get Christmas off now, but so 51 weeks a year, the WWE is off and running. With with three different shows, with three different shows more on the way, so that's hundreds of hours of content, hundreds upon hundreds of hours of content annually. So the Hollywood, even the Hollywood writer has to understand how to adjust and slash be able to adjust on the fly. I'm great on Monday. I'm in the gym and my pec explodes on Tuesday. Um, I got to be able to adapt real quick, so that when Friday hits, I can tell you what I got to tell them. And if we got a pay-per-view on Sunday or a PLE on Saturday or Sunday, how do I weave the story so that it makes sense and not leave me in the hole because now we're back on Monday. So it takes time. You've got found in Delirious. You got someone you've got what TNA currently has is it has a generational layer cake, right? So from ECW, from Raw to ECW to ROH and upper tier indies, you have people who can communicate with everybody on at every level, but people who have extensive TV experience, both with no budget and both with almost an inexhaustible budget. They understand how to adjust on the fly. They understand how to get blood from a stone, right? Because I can concoct an amazing storyline, but not everybody can deliver um can deliver what that storyline needs, all the time. So like they know their talent, they know who's capable of what, they know who needs to work on what, and if you listen, they can probably tell you how to work on it. So it's just gonna be a matter of time. They will get there. They will get there. I honestly wouldn't worry about bringing in an external creative voice until they can land a more substantive TV deal. Because again, I enjoy TNA, but I watch it through the app, and I may go 2 or 3 weeks and go, oh shit, I forgot to watch TNA last couple weeks, and I got to get caught up when I'm doing cardio. The because I can't tell you where it is on my cable channel. I'd say I don't have a freaking clue. And sometimes I don't have time to chase it down on YouTube. So once they can land the real channel, that is the game changer for them.
Is it possible even to get that vote? Because as we said, WWE is a whole different beast. That's like comparing the NFL to CFL. It's
Yeah.
there's apples and oranges. The last time somebody tried out of the box was Lucha Underground. That was really out of the box. That was you got creative writers. You had Mark Burnett. You had Robert Rodriguez, and I loved it. It was sometimes it was like, holy crap, this is a little bit wild and too really too out there. But is that feasible when? And I speak with my guy BQ of Negative BQ, who's like, we want more like suspense drama. We want Landman to go into pro wrestling, but at the end of the day, as you know, most of these wrestlers can't act. They are who they are. This is just them, anteed up like 1,000. It's not. We're not getting Shakespeare. We're getting a bunch of athletic people who they can try to remember scripts and they can try to get into a character, but most of the time, this is who they are in real life.
Well, I think this is probably going to piss a lot of people off, but there is a reason why the WWE has been so hell bent on looking for athletes, right? Because back in the day, during our boom era, your Orange, your Tullys, your Wahoos, they were athletes. They were football players. They were amateur wrestlers. A bunch of them were on the NFL practice squad. People forget, during the 70s and early 80s, the contracts were structured very differently. And when the season was off, you weren't getting paid. So they would go wrestle. And then they just happened to be wrestling at a time where wrestling became more profitable for them and they stayed. There's a certain mentality that gets built when you participate in team sports, especially team sports that are a little more hard-nosed. Um, the especially too your coaching staff, your people, they're they are politically incorrect, they are abrasive, they are pushy, but they teach you how to be competitive, but most importantly, they teach you how to be accountable, self-accountable. right? Because you have a role and it's your job to fulfill the role, and that because that role is designed for the greater good of the entire unit. The What we have seen since the explosion of the wrestling school is you got a lot of nerds who liked it and went into it, but the only thing they know is wrestling. And everybody wants to be a tough guy, but no one's really a fucking tough guy. And I don't mean to rag on him because I think actually now that he has more mic time, he is slowly starting to get better. But a lot of the times when you put a mic in these guys' hands, they sound like a fucking nerd, like Ricochet. People had a hard time getting behind Ricochet. And until Vince invested a lot of time in reforming, and reforming his his appearance. But when Ricochet talks, you hear a nerd who's trying to be tough guy, and people, it's wrestling works when the character is authentic, right? Like it's like the Ringmaster was awesome and all, but Stone Cold is everybody's guy because that was authentic. That was authentic Steve Williams being himself, just turned up a little bit. The Everybody loves the fucking Sandman because that's who that dude is. You know, Tommy Dreamer struggled to get over with the fans because he was doing the pretty boy thing. But yeah, at the end of the day, like Tommy was a Tommy was a good looking jock from Yonkers during a time when people hated good looking jocks, right? And then what happened? He had to get the shit kicked out of him and eat shit for people to go, this guy can take a beating. But we'll give him a chance because we misjudged him. We saw a good looking jock. We thought he was like every 80s villain, every 80s movie villain that we thought of, but this guy's a pretty cool guy. And you know what? He's willing to take a beating for us. We'll give him a chance because we got to know him. The you that you need an innate toughness that only comes from getting out there, being in the shit, and getting dirty, and waking up sore, and having to go do it again, and having to fight and claw your way out of hell. Versus sitting around playing Mortal Kombat all day until it's time to go do flippy dips at wrestling school. That's kind of, if it makes sense, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of it. It's you know, you everybody until they learn how to cut promo is going to be a terrible actor, right? But you just need to be, I'm going to date myself with this. You need to be a higher tier Skinamax movie level of actor, and not a straight up corn actor. And that takes time. But you can't turn into a good actor until you know who you are as a performer. You got to find yourself first, and then you know how to take the writer's words and make it something you would say. Like listen, everybody shits on Gargano. I think I understand why they keep Gargano around, right? His live promos aren't great, but he delivers really good pre-tape. You can throw him in a vignette, and he knows how to get the message across, and he knows how to convey the message you need to convey because he's a pretty decent actor. Pretty decent actor. The there's some guys that just well, again, like not everybody is blessed with the charisma of the freaking Rock or Cena. And even when you go and look back at those early days, right? Like Rocky Maivia stunk. Nation Rock was something a little different. He had to get, once he got settled in his skin, right? The poop, what was it? The poop farts and gay sex era of Cena. It was funny, but you weren't taking him seriously. But then he learned how he found his voice, and who in the hell is better on the mic than John Cena? You're really hard pressed. Or I guess maybe a more recent example is Roman. Brother went from suffering succotash and not knowing his lines to being able to very calmly and sternly um talk your ass into seats. And now the guy is the biggest, one of the biggest wrestlers of all time. The so it's, your acting level is going to be the shits when you first start. It is what it is. Everybody understands that. No one's expecting Shakespeare from a bunch of wrestlers, unless you are a wrestler who has a Shakespearean gimmick. Then you damn sure better be able to perform like your Kelsey Grammer or Patrick Stewart. Doing a reading of Macbeth. Um, the but you know but it's you just got to be you got to be your performance levels just got to be better than the gas station porn that you had no business buying and just just be a Skinamax TV show and everybody's going to be okay and it'll just get better with time. I look at some of my favorite Ernest Miller, dude. When Ernest Miller first showed up, he was boring, but then he became the Cat, and once he got his voice, fucking Cat was awesome. Steiner, look at Scott Steiner. Look at Scott, dude. That guy is a freak of nature. He was running the tag teams. They didn't really give him too much to say, but they also didn't have a lot to say. And then all of a sudden now, you throw a mic, you throw a mic in that guy's hand. Once he was allowed to kind of be himself, and you're like, holy shit, this guy is a human landmine. You never know what's going to come out of him. He's saying shit that shouldn't be on TV at all. Dude, I mean, think about it, like during the '90s, guys talking about back shots and all this other stuff before but before the executives were aware what the vernacular was, so he didn't get bleeped out. And you're like, oh my god, they're saying this on live TV. And to this day, you're like, man, I hope Scott Steiner gets a live mic. So once you're slightly sad when he's not in Big Papa Pump mode. So it's something that comes with time. I don't know if I've said that enough. It's just we got to be patient, man. Yeah, this is phenomenal news for TNA. In a year from now, I have a feeling we're gonna have a radically different conversation. But to me, this validates what I've been saying for the last 2 years. TNA is the actual number two wrestling promotion. They just didn't have the money to prove it.
Well, we're gonna let you go on full rank because I know you've been behaving for yours. So let's talk about your favorite promotion, GCW and Joey Janela. Already, I see the facial features. Like, oh God, can't these guys here. So Joey Janela, if you don't know, is the independent wrestling star that even makes Kevin Paula go, "Indie wrestling should die." Unfortunately, he got injured at a J Cup match, and he is now, according to him, suffered, I guess, torn ligaments and nearly muscles in his right arm. He's had
Yes.
major surgery. He's gotten into I guess is it a work fight or shoot fight with Dylan Bostic during a GCW event. Again, we've seen people. There's another indie wrestler, forget her name. She got injured and hurt her knee during GCW. You've been adamant about this year. So for the casual fan, why is it that you hate? And I'm not talking a capital H for reserved for politicians and LGBT alphabet mafia hate for GCW and Joy Janelle and that whole group.
Bro, it's garbage wrestling, dude. They, I laugh like the IWC is very selective on who's going to spark the outrage mob and who needs to be canceled. Usually it's frivolous bullshit, but you got a promoter who cut a rap video and he dropped more N bombs than a bunch of Samoans, Puerto Ricans, and gangster rappers, in one room. It's like, oh, he didn't catch any shit for that. And then they do the dumb shit, man, like Effie with the dildos and all the other horseshit. It's like it's all the spitting in the mouths, all this weird, creepy fetish bullshit that has no business being a part of wrestling. It's mud show. It's third rate horseshit, man. And unfortunately, it appeals to a very low denominator, and these people get entitled and like to pretend like they are they are the majority, and it winds up impacting things in ways that it has no business impacting them. Um, and when they show up to town, well, I was so part of the some of the hardest things that you can do in wrestling is actually find buildings to run in. find people to partner with, because there's always some crappy show who went to some building and shit the place up, or someone who tricked some mom into doing a fundraiser, and then then the fundraiser scumbags her, and it wound up being a big waste of time. Indie wrestling does not have credibility with the public. So when something like GCW pops up and just is just showcasing proudly the worst of the worst behavior, it makes the legitimate promoter's job that much harder. It makes finding quality partners that much harder. It makes getting advertisers that much harder. And for the sake of not causing too many problems, because there's the the wrestlers and wrestling promoters, especially indie guys, are softer than baby shit. So if you say something, you never know who's going to turn around and want to sue you over bullshit. But the some of these guys get money to do these shows somehow through some kind of magic that should probably get a police investigation. Or they find some dumb creepy money mark, who just loves the fetish shit, and they get to run wild while other people who are working hard and trying to do it legit got to eat shit, and then want to be eating their shit because they showed up and they do the things that they do. I feel bad for Joey Janela. I never want to hear about anybody being injured, but the fact is he got accidentally famous because he was throwing himself off of buildings and not dying. And I've seen a lot more way talented people with a lot more to offer who couldn't even get a knock at the door. They couldn't get a sniff. And this guy had an opportunity and he squandered it because he didn't get better. He didn't work on his body. He didn't work on his promo. He didn't work on his in-ring until he had no choice but to do it. And then it was too little too late. But now, because he's known quantity, he'll turn around and open up a wrestling school and tell people a whole bunch of horse shit, and then send those kids out into the wild, and now you got more shitty wrestlers doing dumb shitty things. So that's why I get mad about when I see shit like GCW, especially in New York State, man. It costs a lot of money to do anything in the state. The athletic commission is a big old pain in the ass. You're not allowed to do anything. For it's all performative. All they really want to do, they treat wrestling like it's still 100% real, because they want the tax revenue from it, instead of adjusting it and treating it like it's entertainment. But on top of the tax revenue, they want to regulate you through the nose and make you pay 4 billion fees, and do a whole bunch of bullshit that doesn't really matter. And if you don't, someone's crawling up your ass and they're ready to fine you. They're ready to arrest you. And then you get someone like GCW pops in and does a bunch of bullshit. I don't know if it's because they greased some palms, or maybe they didn't tell the commission they were coming, or they bullied their way through it. They had to do shit like dildos with a bunch of fucking nails sticking out of it, or they do some dumb stunt that gets a poor girl's leg broken. And no one says a word. No one says a word. They get away with bloody fucking murder, and it's like, well, no, this is nonsense, man. This isn't what the sport is. This isn't what the sport is. This is a perverted bastard version of it. And then you don't see anybody being held accountable for the nonsense, and it gets tiresome. It gets tiresome. I don't blame the Cardonas of the world for cashing out. Right? He showed up, and all he did was just tell the truth about what it was, and it worked out for him. It got him some extra clout, and now he's able to make money off of kind of exposing them. But it's one of those. It is what it is, man. It's I get pissed off in them like a couple weeks ago when they did the show in Hammerstein, and it's like, well, they ran past midnight, which is a big no for liability reasons. They did the dumb intergender matches, which again is just creepy fetishist nonsense. And someone, and now a young girl has her career on the line and was not compensated appropriately. the she's out here doing a goddamn GoFundMe. When frankly the New York State bond that gets carried should have been cracked open to pay for her medical care if they weren't going to crack open the pocketbooks. It gets really frustrating. It gets really frustrating when you sit down and bust your ass to do it the right way, in a way that's respectable and palatable for everybody. And you got some fucktard doing a bunch of fucking creepy bullshit, and they get all the love on the internet because they're talking to a bunch of unwashed cretins who are into that shit when 99% of the normal person population doesn't want anything to do with it.
So I end this here because I know you've talked, I've talked to AEW Disc, Pro Wrestling Times. By the way, check those guys out, Town Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Times. I've also spoken with guys like BQ of Negative BQ Speaks. Is this Paul Heyman and Mick Foley's fault in the end? Because you could argue this is ECW just a little bit low class with more skimpy wrestlers. That Joey Janela is basically Mick Foley. Hey, I dove off, off a cage. I took chair shots. I set myself on fire.
Um,
Because again, we love Mick Foley. I mean, wrestling community loves him. Wrestling, ECW is like the the basically revolution for most people here. It never dies, but they seem to be sort of the worst thing that has happened in pro wrestling. It said, "Oh, you don't have to be a good athlete. You want to be a good wrestler. Just take a bunch of stuff, pull through tables, and you can be a star."
um, what I will blame Mick Foley for, and they didn't really understand the consequences of what they were doing because it wasn't really a thing then. But I blame Mick Foley and the Hardys for the rise of backyard wrestling. Um, it wasn't really a thing. It was very few and far between. And once you saw those old videos of Foley jumping off the roof and going through all the bullshit and then the Hardy stuff, it created a mindset of, well, I can be a wrestler too. And you had a lot of guys out there and they, you know, got themselves hurt, and it injected something in the indies that should have never been there. But in terms of the content, um then I always got like, listen, the 90s were a really special time, right? Like I thought it was Western civilization's angsty teen years. When you think about where we went from, it just in terms of TV production, right? So you look at old sitcoms, and until the days of Norman Lear, a lot of it was like Donna Reed and Daddy Knows Best, and like really wholesome Midwestern rural country shows. And the 70s hit, and now it's urban. We're in the ghetto. We're talking about shit that no one ever seen before. And in the 80s, it's all about like largesse and excess and adopting kids, and rich people adopting kids. The And in the 90s, it was listen, it was gangster rap, it was grunge, everything was extreme, it was loud. Side boob was a thing on TV. All of a sudden, the language on TV changed. You're watching Fox. I forget, there was an episode of the John Lewis show, The Critic, right? And they're at a parade, and this mule, a float that has a big donkey on it, gets set on fire, and someone screams, "Oh my God, it's a giant flaming ass!" And then the critic looks into the camera and goes, "You're watching Fox. For every 5 minutes, you'll hear the word ass." Like, it was just a different time. ECW was very much so a product of the time. It was big, it was flashy, it was sexually charged, right? Like the 90s. 90s was the era of big boobs. People love big boobs. They love women doing crazy shit. It was metal, it was rap, it was music videos. It was just a very different time. But where I say what people tend to leave out is ECW was evolving. It just died before it got finished evolving. Look at like when we hit 2000, look at where we are. It's Simon, it's Swinger, it's York and Matthews, it's C.W. Anderson. It's becoming a lot more technical. The matches are very physical, but they're wrestling based. Even the Baldies were doing a lot of hardcore stuff, unless there was something very specific to New Jack. It was more akin to what would become the X Division than what we were used to 5 years earlier, where it was barbed wire and fire and thumbtacks. If ECW never went out of business, ECW would have become what would later be TNA. It just would have. That's the trajectory that it was on. It was it was leaner. It was younger, leaner wrestlers doing more high impact flying stuff than it was big beefy dudes throwing each other through tables. Like that was every once in a while. That was well, the table. The hardcore stuff was really more reserved for Tommy, for Tommy and the Impact players. And even then, you still had a really big physical competitive match before you got to the gimmicky stuff. Balls and Axel, that was kind of done. That was kind of done. Like even Balls was switching more towards it's just a very physical wrestling style. He wasn't swinging chairs as often as freely as he had been doing 2 years earlier, when having matches with the Dudleys. It was a different entity and would have been very interesting to see what it would have become. But at the end of the day, they died a little too fast. They just died a little too fast. So I don't blame Heyman because Heyman responded to what was going on in the culture. To see this now, um, this has nothing to do with where people are as wrestling fans or where people are. And again, you look at what we go through the wrestling boom, the WWE has mastered this. The product changes in accordance to the age range of its biggest group of 10-year-olds. So, right, all the Hogan babies in the 80s were Austin teens, right? Um, the other than kind of feeling their way through the early 2000s with the HLA and all that bullshit, by the time you get to 2003, they realize that all their Austin teens are now working adults. Some of them may be married, some of them may have kids. Then they realize, okay, hey, our Austin teens who are now a little older, they have kids. So now during the Cena era, our former Austin teens now have Cena 10-year-olds. Like WWE is very forward thinking in keeping track of how its fans age, and you watch the product adjust accordingly as those kids age. Right, the Cena 10-year-olds are now in their mid 20s. So now we're back to maybe a little saltier language every once in a blue moon. Maybe it's a little more in your face um, because they know that the product has to adjust. And when you see the big groundswell of kids again, it'll adjust to pull them back in. The That's why the WD is so family focused. About 10 years ago, I did a paper because I was a sports and recreation major, and I talked about how the WB had really essentially perfected the study of the demographics. Vince realized really early that when he was looking at the birth rates for a little while there were more girls were being born than boys. So when he hit the mid 2000s, as we get out of the diva era, it stops being about bra and panties and bikinis, and it's just the girls are very attractive, but now they're more competitive. It's more competitive matches. It's a little more classic soap opera storylines, and that's because it stopped being dads coming to the shows with their sons and dads going to the shows with their daughters. As the gap changed, they realized, hey, you know what? It's dads, daughters, and the younger sons, but mom realized that for every $2 dad spends, mom spends $8. So now we got to find a way to pull mom in. And now when you look at it, mom mom buys the tickets, and not only does mom buys a ticket for her, she buys the tickets for the kids, and she buys the tickets for at least two of the kids' friends. And because there's so many people going, maybe another mom comes, and then that mom brings another four or five people. So now it went from dad and son to mom with like 12 people. And because mom is driving the spending, we know we're going to sell a shit ton of merchandise because moms love to leave with keepsakes. The so it's just how the be. There's a reason why their gates and their merchandise move the way they do, and so when you go back to go back to Heyman, Heyman had a I would say Heyman had a more rudimentary or I say an innate, an innate sense of what was going on culturally, which is why you saw that change in ECW towards the end. Yeah, it would have been a different animal if they didn't go out of business. I think their legacy would have been very different. But I say it's unfair to blame people. People love to bastardize the memory of ECW. Yeah, I think not to shit on XPW. A lot of this is really more XPW than ECW. Rob Black had no problem in embracing the porn side of his business. XPW, to its credit, did a lot of really cool, innovative shit for the very short time it was around. But the legacies get a little conflated and a little beat up. And when you look at like when ECW folded, CZW showed up, and all of a sudden now we're doing those awful fucking fluorescent light bulb matches, and people are bleeding everywhere. Because indie wrestling hot chicks are really hard to come by, so now it's just we're just in a weird spot. And you see, and we're in that weird spot because a lot of times, a lot of guys who never should have been trained got trained. A lot of bad habits that never should have been introduced have been introduced, and because they don't have enough to offer, they have to go with this salacious, slimy shit as an attempt to get over because their work can't speak for themselves. And unfortunately, a lot of guys who do know better, and they would they'll tell you one thing privately, but they'll never say it publicly because they're afraid that the IWC, who has empowered people who have no business being empowered, will derail their ability to get bookings. And a lot of these guys, especially these older vets, they got to work, man. They got to wrestle on the weekends so they can keep their house. So they just kind of bite their tongue and swallow the shit, roll their eyes and go, man, I can't believe this shit's happening. But it's in the it just makes life hard because in the back end you have to do more work to teach the kids around you who are breaking in, hey man, don't fall for that bullshit. If you have an opportunity to go get paid, brother, go get paid. Go cash out, but don't drink the Kool-Aid. I think that's the way to go. Yeah, I know I probably threw a little bit more in there than you wanted. Other than that, I'll say the other than that worked fight, that was the most pussy worked fight I've ever seen. It goes back to my complaint about not having actual athletes and letting nerds overcompensate for their lack of natural athletic ability. It was an awful table flip. It was an awful fake fight. It was the most unconvincing. It's one of the most unconvincing things I've seen this week, outside of poor Thunder Rosa not being willing to swing that chair to do what she needed to do. And I think that talking about these fucking people gives them more time than they deserve. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, the man who pulls no punches, takes no dives, and well, unfortunately, as I said, he's not getting hired by the FBI. They'd be afraid he'd be slapping people. FBI is being a little bit too mild, but we're glad to have him on the show and give you the man, the myth, the legend himself. I give you the war dog, Kevin Apollo. So, Kevin, once again, where can fans check you out at? Where is the Instagram, the X,
Sure.
Website. Also, when is your show coming up? You have a show in March, I know, but you're already like planning some bigger things for us. So when is that going to happen?
Yeah, dude. So I'm gonna move the March show is being moved to April. So listen, if you are in the New York, greater New York, New Jersey area, our we're I'm gonna be formatting our smaller ACW shows into more of a television based product. I'm working with some of my partners to develop a Roku channel. We're pursuing some other things too, but we're gonna use those shows to produce more of a TV based more of a TV based product. And those shows will be taped the third Saturday of every month, starting in April. We're gonna run April through September every month for the entire summer. I've got a couple of new mall shows coming up, but which I'll announce those all soon. That stuff will all be over during summer. I'm gonna do a complete and total rehaul of the ACW Coliseum website, along with the ACW Instagram. So we're just gonna do some rebranding. Gonna do some rebranding. I noticed that since we've had some momentum, there are a lot more ACWs that are popping up. I've even seen people start using the Coliseum name. So I've got to go make some changes so that we continue to stand out and not let some people grift off of our hard work. But a lot of really fun stuff coming. If you want to get me, it's it's a Wardog Apollo on Twitter. Same thing on Instagram, just Wardog underscore Apollo on Instagram. And then if you want to give the ACW page a follow, it's ACW underscore Coliseum, COLOSSEUM on Instagram, and I think it's the same thing on Twitter. I should know that by now, but I wrestled and have really short memory. But yeah, so yeah, same thing, ACW underscore Coliseum on X as well. Other than that, man, I love doing this show. So if you ever need me, let me know. I'll hop on that. Maybe you'll see me Tuesdays and Thursdays with Marv, on Toonie Talk Wrestling and Toonie Talk TV, and then on Wednesdays with WW Pro for the late night pro show. Other than that, I'm floating around. I'm enjoying the space. So I've been kicking around potentially starting a YouTube, um, but we'll see how it goes. I know I'm not long for monetization, so I'm trying to figure out how to say certain things a little more nice.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Apollo, always on a pleasure having you on the show. We come back. I've got a lot more going on here. Only on its last call. Last call at the alcohol, only on lastcallpodcast.com.